as usual, I need to chant something from our ancient texts before we start this. I would call it a satsang. We could call it a talk or a one-act play with M as the actor. So this chant comes from at least 1,500-year-old text. And it's interesting because this is usually chanted when people sit together, like we're doing now, face to face, and are about to look into the deeper aspects of human life, the universe, and the essence of one's being. The chant, many of us, especially from India, and also sometimes I think people who are not in India also, must have heard this chant, but we rarely look at the meaning of the chant. In India also, unfortunately, because hardly anybody now really knows Sanskrit language. I'm kind of on a promotion spree so that people introduce the language once again, as before, into the university curriculum or something like that. In fact, there are 2 chairs, full-fledged chairs for Sanskrit in the Berlin University, but not in our universities. So, the chant is Om Sahana Vavathu, Sahana Vavathu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now, before explaining this, I need to thank Jeff and Adele for organizing this talk here so that I'm able to communicate with you. Thank you. So, let's examine the meaning of this verse. It starts with Sahana Vavathu. May both of us, both is important, not you and not me, but you and I, be protected. Sahana Vavathu. May you and I be nourished. Saha Viryam Karavavahai. May the vitality in you and me, Virya, increase. Tejasvinavaditamastu. May the spiritual energy, Tejas, in us, with you and me, increase. And the last one is Ma Vidvishavahai. Let's not fight with each other. Nice thing to frame and hang on the entrance to the United Nations. Ma Vidvishavahai. Maybe not fight with each other. The word to be noted here is the word Saha. Sahana Vavathu. Saha na Vunaktu. Saha Viryam Karavavahai. So there is a word Saha which means you and I. So when in ancient times they examined the teachings of the Upanishads or sat together and learned the practices of yoga, not only the practices but also the philosophy of yoga, theory and practice both, there was a sharing between the teacher and the taught. This is very important to note. It's not as if the teacher said, okay, do it, and you did it. No. There was always a dialogue between the teacher and the taught, and unless we work together, it's not possible to look at something that we are now trying to look at. A satsang is not a talk or a lecture, but a journey into exploration shared by you and me. And for this, we need some kind of protection. Now, physically, I think we are protected. Are we protected from the buzz? Or no? So, physically, we are protected because we are sitting inside this room now. All fine. Okay. Then there's the other kind of protection, which is the mind has to be protected from distraction. One can sit here, but one's mind can always be wandering around, get caught with so many distractions. The physical body is here, of course. So the prayer also is maybe also be protected from internal and external enemies. The internal enemies are the distractions and temptations that take us away from the core of our being. And the external we know. External protection. You need a place to sit where when it rains you don't get drenched. When there's too much heat you don't feel hot, and so on and so forth. The next one, Sahana Vavathu, may you and I be nourished. Now nourishment is very important. Therefore, we believe that you need proper nourishment for the body and also proper nourishment for the mind. When the mind and the body are properly nourished, then one touches the soul, which is the essence and source of all nourishment. It's not the other way. It doesn't come from here. It comes from inside out, not outside in. But therefore, to find that is the essence of our being, one has to go from outside in, so that you find out where is this nourishment coming from, what is the essence of our consciousness, who are we, where do we come from, and so on and so forth. So this is the nourishment. So physical nourishment and also mind nourishment. And mind nourishment, nourishment of the mind, is all the teachings which are given to us that we can study carefully together. Now the third, Sahaviryam Karavavai, may our vitality increase, our vital force increase. This is very important for two reasons. One is, we all like to be vital and energetic and ready to do things. That's one part of it physically. The other is that which we are searching for, the essence of our being, which of course is the entrance to infinity. Let's put it this way. I might be a little bit of a hyperbole, but true. This which we seek is so subtle that it requires all our energies to look in. So you can't start this inquiry when we have lost all our energies. Some people say, okay, now I am retired, I'm going into the spiritual life. Right? It is not an occupation for the retired. I mean, there's no harm in retired. It's better to go into this than something else. I understand that. But if you really need to examine, go to the core of one's being, the core of the universe, which also happens to be the core of our being. One needs a great deal of energy, and one needs a one-pointed attention to do that. Therefore, the prayer is, may our energies not be dissipated, may they increase, may the vitality in you and me, the vigor in us increase. In ancient times, when the student went to the teacher, there's a metaphor which says, the student goes with fuel in hand. Now, it's in the ritual, the student carries a burning firewood in his hand and goes to the teacher. This is the metaphor actually, the external. What it actually means is when the student goes to the teacher, he still has enough fuel in him, or her, sorry. So that you don't go when everything is over and dissipated. When you have no fuel, you can't run the car. So, therefore, to gather fuel is also, in yogic terms, keeping the mind away from distraction, because it's distraction that dissipates our energies. So this is the third. So the next one, Tejasvina Vaditamastu, may the spiritual energy in us shine forth. Just as there is physical energy, there is spiritual energy. And the link is between the mind, the body, and the inner being. I am deliberately not using the word soul, because it's not as if it's some kind of thing like a wraith that comes in and goes out and so on. It's an essence of an all-pervading reality, which is here, there and everywhere. So the yogi who touches this is no more separated from the rest, is part of one whole, W-H-O-L-E, not H-O-L-E, whole, W-H-O-L. So this is the prayer with which we start. And I said, we do this in a satsang. So you might be wondering if you are, no, I'm sure many of you know. What is a satsang as opposed to just a talk? Now we need to look at again at the meaning of the word. 2 syllables, Sat and Sang. Sat and Sang. Sat, the word Sat means the reality, the truth, as opposed to what we think is the reality but is not. And Sangha is a group of people like now, you and me, sitting together and trying to find out this reality. So one would say, well, there's nothing to find out reality, everything is real. Well, the Vedantin and the yogi questions the statement of ours when we say everything is. So you may think it's real, it may or may not be real. And what you think is real may be something else than what you think it is. I'm sitting here, right, where I look contented and happy and so on, and I'm wearing a nice shining vest and so on. So you must be thinking, oh, this guy must be a yogi who is liberated. Who knows? This is appearance. Well, many times appearance and reality go together. It's okay. But still, it's an appearance. You don't know really. So when you look and find that it is not so, then you say, oh, we thought this is real, but this is not real. Let's go into this a little more. We think that the world that we know of, which we see, which we contact every day, is real. Yeah, it is. Morning I need to wake up, I need to go to work, I need to drive my car. Well, it looks all real, fine. But really, is the world that we see or we feel or in which we live in, do we really know how it is? Or do we know only the picture presented to us by our sense organs? Please look carefully. Okay. I look at you and see you in a particular shape, right? Why do I see you in this particular shape? And why do you see me in this particular shape? Because I see with my eyes. You know, the basic instrument of perception we have is the eye. A lot of things depend on the eye. I'm talking about this eye, not this eye. This eye. So, from birth, the human species has a certain optical instrument called the eye, which we are born with. And this optical instrument, called the two eyes, have a certain kind of lens in them. So the shape of the human being sitting in front of me is decided by the image that I see because of this particular kind of convex lens. This has been fitted into my system from birth. Therefore, since it's from birth, I believe it is so. Now just imagine a fly, a common house fly. A common house fly, I'm sure you're aware of this, has what is called a compound eye, a cluster of eyes. We don't know how the lens is like because you need to go into the mind of the fly and look through its eyes to know. But it has a cluster of eyes called the compound eyes. So when it sees me or sees Jeff, who knows how it sees Jeff and how it sees me? It may be seeing us as kind of cluster of pictures, maybe square or rectangular, God knows how it looks like. But we, because of our instruments of perception, have decided that this must be the truth. This is how we look. The fly says this is how they look. So which is correct? Well, they look, of course. But that they look this way or that way, who decides? So, but we kind of from birth accept this because we are equipped with no other instrument of perception. What if we were born with some other kind of instrument? Then we would have seen each other as something else. Of course, if you had called it a square and if he had called it a square, he would say square, but when he says square, he's talking about something else. When I say square, I'm talking about something else. So, what we are trying to say is when you say the word Sat, it means the reality as it is and not as we think it is. Well, there is a reality, no question. But what it is actually very relative and cannot be absolutely pinpointed. There is a reality. We see something, yes, but what we see can be quite different from. So therefore, like Alexander Pope, the great poet, said, the difference is as great between the optic seeing as the object seen. So therefore, when you say Sat, it means, is there an absolute reality beyond these appearances, these relative appearances? Is there something which is the same, no matter who looks and from what angle? This is Sat. Now again, we want to look at another example. We all, all I'm talking is not my own, okay? Well, I might have gone into it, experimented and found out, but originally the subject matter is not my own. 2000 years ago, the Upanishads have discussed it, threadbare. And then the Buddhist teachings have discussed it, threadbare again. And then the ancient yogic texts have discussed it, starting from Patanjali onwards. So many yogic texts which have discussed this. Now the difference between the theoretical discussion and actually finding out the reality is the difference between the teachings of the Upanishads and the teachings of the practical aspects of yoga. There is this wonderful text called the Bhagavad Gita in India. Well, it's all over the world now. Many people read the Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita is not intended for one particular section of people. It's a universal teaching. It's not restricted to anybody. And it has 18 chapters. Beautiful 18 chapters. It's interesting. If anyone plays golf, you have 18 holes in a full-fledged golf links. You have 18 holes. Start from one, and you know how careful you have to be. Even if you have given a good shot, when you come to putting, you're in trouble. It doesn't go in, right? So, well, there's another 19th hole which we don't need, the watering hole, but at least you need 18. So, the Gita is like that. You need a perfect poise and balance, and a good swing and complete attention to actually be able to win the match. And there's no age limit. Tiger Woods is past 44 now. So, what I mean to say is, when the comparison with the Gita is like this, the Bhagavad Gita at the end of each chapter says something very interesting. That's why I'm saying this. And this is, should I say the Sanskrit or go on with the English? Sanskrit. Sounds good, right? Yeah. So, it says, Iti Srimat Bhagavad Gita. So, this is the Bhagavad Gita, clear? Upanishads. It also says it is the teachings of the Upanishad. Brahma Vidyayam is the knowledge of the supreme reality. Yoga Shastre. Next is Yoga Shastra. And then, of course, Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Now, why has that Yoga Shastra word been put after Brahma Vidya, understanding the Supreme Being, reality? Because yoga is the practice by which you can understand and experience for yourself the truths which have been described in the Upanishads. So it's a very important part of it. So when one learns how to give one-pointed attention and move the mind away from all distraction, then you have mastered yoga. Not otherwise. You can do all the asanas in the world, but if the mind has not attained that poise and that one-pointed attention, one cannot be called a yogi. You can stand on your head for half an hour without distraction, not enough. And without falling down. But when the mind can stand that way, one-pointedly, undistracted, then you're a yogi. Why? Because then you penetrate into the mysteries of your own self and discover that the inner core of your being is no different from the inner core of the universe. And this is a greatly liberating experience because you can no longer consider anything or anybody as outside yourself. It's all part of you. Right? It's instead of United Nations, it's United Souls, US. Oh, I just found that it is the same. Anyway, so now we are going to look at the thing which we call consciousness. Interesting. Again, not my own. I've just studied it from the ancient sources and probably tried to understand. From ancient times, the great rishis, India seems to have a lot of material on this subject simply because when the rest of the world was experimenting and trying to expand in the material world, there were a set of people sitting there whose main job was to delve into the inner. So they came out with various things, which is useful to all now. It just happens that there was one group of people who were more interested in the inner than the outer, while the rest of the world, well, it's good that people did many things in the outer world, because today we have internet. Well, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. Today we have God who knows everything, Google. Big G. The Freemasons have a G hanging from the roof made of gold. And the other day somebody asked me, what do you think is this G? A very veteran Freemason. Unfortunately, people don't know what the symbols mean these days. I said, Google. So, it's good, because now communication has improved, wisdom can go fast here and there. Jennifer sends me 10 emails a day and so on. But one needs to know the essence before one can use internet to share it with others. And this is interesting because the ancient rishis said, all human beings, and it's a fact, share in something very interesting. And what is that? That you and I, all of us, pass through different states of consciousness which is common to all of us. What are these states? One, the waking state. In fact, there is a specific Upanishad which has only 12 verses, the shortest of the Upanishads, that deals with this subject. And the Mandukya, it's called the Mandukya Upanishad, says that we all have in common 3 states of consciousness. Nobody can deny this, okay? You don't even say, ask me, prove it, but it's there. It's self-evident. And what are these states? One is the waking state. Right? What we all I hope so. If it's too boring, we may not be in the waking state. But the waking state of existence, which we are all aware of, which we know about, and that's the state in which we see this world, recognize it, interact with this world, and so on and so forth, until we are laid to rest. Then we have the dream state, very interesting state. What you cannot fulfill in your waking state, one can often fulfill in dreams, unconsciously. All the desires which we don't fulfill here get fulfilled in dreams. And dreams are so fantastic that sometimes you have wings in the dream, which you can't have here. And they're so real. In a dream, if you're chased by a wild animal, even when you wake up, you're still palpitating and sweating and look behind to see if it's there, if it's not there. It's a dream. Then you say, oh, this is a dream, come on. But when you were dreaming, it's so real. Now it's not, because we have woken up. We have shifted from the dream state to the waking state. So these are common to all. You may be from this part of the world or that part of the world, man or woman, young or old. It's common for us. Dream and deep sleep. Waking state. A slip of the tongue. Now, there is the third state, which is also common to most of us, but I don't know how many of us really go into deep sleep, because we hover between half dream and deep sleep. But there is a state called deep sleep, where there are no dreams, there is no movement, there is no recognition, internal or external. And in that deep sleep, all are equal. The rich man and the poor man, both of them go into deep sleep. And it's necessary. If there was no deep sleep, I think we would have become more crazy than we are now. That's the period when the mind rejuvenates itself, because it has nothing to compare. It has nothing. When you're awake and, you go into a circle and nobody recognizes you, many people feel terrible. Oh, nobody recognized me. I'm supposed to be so and so, but in deep sleep, no problem. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you are. You're not worried what people think. Everything is finished. You're in a state of complete bliss. Yes, but you're not conscious of it. One isn't conscious of it. In a way, good. But then there seems to be some entity which is conscious of it. How do we know this? Because when we wake up from deep sleep, we always have a memory of a blissful deep sleep. We say, oh, that was a blissful sleep. And it's this that prevents us from waking up many a time, in the morning, in that bliss, and then you want to wake up, the alarm rings. It's so blissful, you switch it off. Rings again, you switch it off, because it's so blissful. Why would you come out and get into trouble? So, there is an absolute bliss in that state, but we are not aware of it at that point. But there seems to be a witness there which remembers that it was wonderful. And this is common to all. Now, the Upanishads postulates that there is another state which is called Turiya. So how do you define the state called, which is also common to all, if found? And how does one distinguish it from deep sleep? We can only say that suppose in deep sleep one becomes aware of it, which is not possible. You can't get to Turiya through deep sleep, then it would have been very easy. But suppose there is a state where you're fully experiencing, and you're fully alert, and you actually witness that the state of bliss of deep sleep. then that's called Turiya. So now, I'm going to tell you a little story. There was a great wise king in India called Janaka. Well, he's famous in India because he was the father of Sita, of the Ramayana. Janaka was a wise king. He was called a Raja Rishi because he was not only a Rishi, a wise man, but he was also a king. Both. Which means you can be a king and you can still be a Rishi. That's what it means. You don't have to throw your crown away. If you know how to live. Yeah? So, Janaka once had a dream. And in the dream, he dreamt that he was a beggar. Wearing torn clothes, so hungry, begging for food. No one was giving him food. It was pain and sorrow. And then he woke up. When he woke up, he found that he was lying in his luxurious bed in Videha, his kingdom. And then it occurred to him, what if this dream had continued for a long time? So when his great teacher, Yajnavalkya, the great Rishi, came, he asked him the question, Sir, please tell me, am I a beggar or am I a king? Because when I was a beggar in the dream, I really was a beggar. I was hungry, I was crying, there was pain, and now I wake up and I find, well, I am the king. Now which is the real situation? Am I a beggar? Or am I a king? What if this dream had continued? In fact, sometimes one wonders, a dream is so real when you're dreaming that you will not admit it's not real when you're dreaming. When you wake up, it's gone. What if one day, in the state which we call waking, what if one day we stretch our hands and say, oh my God, what a long dream. Who knows? Oh, you won't believe it now, of course. Just as one wouldn't believe in a dream that one is dreaming. Yeah, in a dream you don't believe you are dreaming. It's real. So here, it's very real, but who knows? There may be some screw there. Well, it's good to take off all the screws, but at least one or two. And then you see that this is also kind of a projection from somewhere. But the one who projects is real. So the teacher, the Rishi, says to Janaka, look here, my dear, all the states that you pass through, dream, deep sleep, they are all relatively real, not unreal, but relatively real, and therefore not absolutely real. What is real? What is real is the witness that goes through all these states and is not affected by it in any way. And that witness is you. The real you is that witness, not what you associate with and the roles that you play. You know, a very simple example which we can all understand. Suppose I'm a good actor. Suppose I'm a good actor. Well, if I do my role to perfection, then I'm glorified by the press and by everybody, the viewers and so on. But what if when I go home, I continue to carry my role home? Suppose I'm acting as I'm trying to look at some character which can relate to everybody. Well, suppose I'm acting as Ben-Hur. I do a good job, I'm doing it well, and so everybody appreciates it, and so on. I go on to win awards. When I go home, if I go to my wife and say, I'm Ben-Hur, what happens? Now there is trouble. Not only because of the wife, but anybody. Because I'm now taking my role too seriously. I mean, it's all right for entertainment, but when I begin to believe that I am what I play, the role, then we are in trouble. Unfortunately, that's what we do all the time. So the Upanishad says, when you need to play your role, okay, do it to your perfection, but remember that the one reality is different from the roles that you play, the multiple roles. We have many roles. We are husbands, we are fathers, when we are small, we are sons, and so on. But these all are roles. So what is the essence? Essence is that reality which in the depths of our consciousness shines forth and which is common to all. And when one finds that reality, one realizes that it is the same spark in all living beings. It's not different for anybody. And it is this that we seek in this earth when we try to improve ourselves. It's actually what we seek is this essence. Because this essence is also the epitome of fulfillment. The emptiness that we have in our minds, which we try to fill in all the time through external sources. Well, this whole world moves on that. Because all the malls would be closed. The emptiness that we have, which we try to fill in, thinking that we can fill in through gathering things from the outside world, actually that essence is in us. If only we reverse the direction of the search and go deep within. And then we find that in us is the satisfaction that you seek in the outside world. It's not that which gives us satisfaction, but the inner which when manifested, that gives us satisfaction. Now, if I take this close, it starts. Before we start the dialogue, last I would like to mention something quite interesting. Okay. Suppose, forget about all Vedanta, Upanishads. Suppose I desire a car. Not all cars, one particular car, let's say. So what do I do normally? I work hard to get it. Beg, borrow, not steal, let's not say that. We beg, borrow, we go to the banks, we talk to people and so on and so forth, and finally I get my car which I wanted. It depends on what your ambitions are, the brand. Got it. So when I get the car for which I worked for 3 years trying to get it, depending on the brand, the harder we work, now I feel I'm on the top of the world. I'm very happy. I'm completely satisfied. Not completely. Because then I drive around for a year, and while driving I look and I see somebody going in a better car. Then my happiness is gone for a toss, so I need to again work. I need to, stress myself for quite a bit to get that, and so on. There are some people who stop and say, oh, I give up, this is enough. But there are others who, it's not bad, okay? They want to get a bigger one and a better one and so on. Now when you get it, then you are happy again. Now you watch this carefully. Is it really that you are happy and satisfied because you got the car you wanted? And now the yogis, who are experts in studying the mind, said, hey, it's not that you have acquired it that's giving you happiness and satisfaction. It is that for a temporary period of time, the mind has stopped craving. So I'm very happy. I'm absolutely fulfilled because I'm not craving. I'm not looking for anything this way, that way, because I have what I want. I have my Rolls Royce in my garage, so I don't need to look here and there. So what's happened is, it's not so much the roles, but the fact that I am satisfied and my mind is not trying to grab temporarily for a short period of time. That's when I am supremely happy. The yogi said, well, this situation, this position can be reached even without the rules. If you learn how to keep the mind quiet without distraction, without craving and running about here and there, even if it is for a short while, then you realize that the joy that you seek is all in here. The honey pot is inside your heart. You just need to find out how to open it, to go in there. This is the whole science of yoga and meditation, of how to free the mind from all distraction. In fact, the definition of yoga, according to Patanjali, the greatest writer on yoga, is yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stopping of the distractions of the mind. If the distractions and the tensions and the conflicts of the mind are taken care of, and the practice of yoga is one way to get there, then you find that the treasure that you seek is right here to be found. And you don't need any special qualifications for that. No Ivy League, no Harvard, nothing required. Find it. So, this is the essence of the teachings of the Upanishads and also the teachings of yoga. And if you touch that, then you have touched the reality. The corollary to this is, to do this, you don't have to shave your head or change your robes or go to the Himalaya. Well, I did, foolish thing. But I enjoy the Himalaya. That's a different matter. Everybody should go at least once in their lifetime. Well, that's a different matter. So, what I mean to say is that you don't need to change your outward modes to experience this. It's enough that you turn within and look, because you can find it in the marketplace. You can also find it in another place. I admit that in the initial stages, when you need to tune in to the inner being, you need to free yourself from external distractions, and therefore short periods of solitude are good. I'm not denying that. But one doesn't have to become a monk to understand. This is what I'm trying to say. One can live in this world like the great King Janaka, who lived in his palace and yet was rooted to his inner being. Therefore, I think it's a good news, as they say, that the jewel is inside us. The Buddhists refer to it in their great mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om, jewel in the lotus, and the lotus is here, or here. That's a different technical matter, but it's there. And there is the jewel in it. And it is this jewel that we are trying to find. And again, the good news is that you and I can find it. If I found it, you can find it too. The time scale might differ because of various reasons, but certainly one can look for it and find it. I'm going to now stop this monologue with one beautiful statement that does not come from the Upanishads or from the Gita, but comes from a much later text, which is called the Bible, the New Testament. And the Gospel, it could be Matthew or Mark, I'm not so sure. And it says, this man who walked the streets of Jerusalem, who said that he has no place to lay his head. When in India we call such people parivrajaks, wandering yogis, standing up on the mount. You know the famous Sermon on the Mount? It's so short and so concise and beautiful. I'm not a Christian preacher, okay, but it's beautiful. I think there was a great yogi there walking around, And he said many things, but one thing which is connected to what we discussed today, she said was, lay treasures in your heart where thieves do not break in and steal. So let's think about that treasure. It's there. You need to just go in and find it. And to find it, first you need to assure yourself, perhaps it's there. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Yeah.